Okay, guys, we've had the fans as well as critics slam this movie. Shoot, on Rotten Tomatoes, he was like at 9%. Everybody who saw this movie left in a nerd rage, and they had good reason. But I just saw this movie, and I'm going to be real here. I'm going to try to be positive, but I'm going to be real here. This movie is not that bad, but it ain't great. It's a poor movie. Number one, bad editing. Number two, lack of chemistry between the cast. At least a few members. And number three, they completely demolished the villain of the movie. They did not know what to do with that guy. And I don't know, it was all over the place. This movie was extremely random, mostly because of the bad editing. But the characters, and all the actors are great. Don't get me wrong. They're great actors. They're supposed to be great actors. That's what they were trained to do. But, and I guess I'm going to try to go into it one at a time. Now, because this movie was everywhere, I'm going to try to stay on point. When it comes to the editing, all the major plot points of the movie was either cut out or rearranged in some strange order to where it made zero sense. To where a lot of things got skipped. Number one, when it came to Von Doom and how Von Doom strangely came out of nowhere with looking like freaking Mumra with a cape on his head. Where did he get the cape? I don't know what all that is. They never really explained what happened to him when he was there. Now, okay, for those people who do want to see movie for themselves, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not the type of person that does a spoiler free as well as a spoiler movie review. I'm going to say it straight up as it is. I'm not going to do two different kind of videos. So for those that want to see this movie for itself or for yourselves, what have you, you probably want to stop watching because I'm going to spoil this movie. And so, other words, spoiler alert. There's a lot of things that are not explained in the movie because of the bad editing. And also, we never really know what happened to Von Doom when he was on that planet, when he was trapped. And not to mention, when it came to how they got their powers in the first place. Now, it's not because of the fact of the fact that Sue didn't go. I don't care about that. You can change it around, make it better, whatever. But the thing is, you got Victor Von Doom pretty much telling Reed Richards, hey, we need to go, this place is unstable. Then all of a sudden you switch it to Von Doom putting his hand in the goo and making the whole place explode. That's bad editing. That's a huge plot point of the entire movie, and you didn't notice that? You literally kept that in there thinking that people are too stupid to realize that. And that was a huge point of the movie. There are huge plot holes and several plot points of this movie that got cut out on the editing floor or wasn't done at all. Now, you can tell there was probably a struggle between the studios and the director. Hence why everything is so completely messed up. And why everything is not in its right place. Where the order is just wrong. And let's go into not only the editing part, but it is part of the editing. Whatever. I'm just going to say this. When in 2007, for those that actually remember it, 2007 was part of the new millennium. When 2000 hit, it was the new millennium. Hence, all new technology came out. The iPhone, all this other stuff that came out. Great new technology. So, how can it be far-fetched to know that, okay, I want to be the first scientist to use teleportation? How can it be far-fetched in 07? I understand if it was 1930. I understand it was 1950. Shoot, I understand if it was 1980. But 07 is a more realistic view. Let's be honest right there. So why in the world would Reed Richards' teacher bully, and not really bully him, but just think, okay, well, I told you to come up here with a real career. Okay, yeah, this is 07, not 1950. And speaking of 1950, everything was outdated. This was supposed to be 2007. but everything looked like it came from the early 80s to the early 90s. It was like at least 10 years behind. Reed Richards was using like probably the first Apple computer ever made or whatever it was, like straight up old school green screen. I'm like, dude, this is 07. We have a little bit better technology back at that time. We were not in the whole Windows 95, Windows 7, whatever have you days. Everything was a little bit upgraded. But the time was completely off when it came to this whole thing. And then you also see Johnny Storm racing in probably one of the most retro cars I have ever seen in my life. And also the other guy, he's like, you're wrestling in that old wreck. His wreck was just as bad. It was outdated. This wasn't that long ago. And then 7 years passed, which makes it 2014, but everything still felt out of date until you got to the actual institute. And I'm like, okay, you were in the 1950s and now you switch on to 1914, which still feels like the 1950s. Everything didn't feel like how it would be now. It felt old. It felt dated. And also with Ben Grimm and his signature catchphrase, how he got that was stupid. It was. Because anybody that goes through the traumatic event that Grimm went through would not remember or want to use something like that. And then you had Johnny Storm one time saying flame on just to turn on his suit. And that's it. It wasn't a trigger. It was just a catchphrase. Besides all that, it's just like, look, don't add that in. You're not giving anybody fan service because that's not what they're using it for. Everyone remembers what they use it for. And if you're not going to add it in, don't use it. But besides all that and bad editing as well as the time frame being completely off, you got the chemistry with the cast. Now, there was a lot of chemistry between Ben Grimm and Reed Richards. There was a lot of chemistry between those two. A lot of it. They were best friends. You can tell, you can feel it. They were great characters. They were. Miles Teller is a great actor. But man, by far, Jamie Bell, who actually played the adult version of Ben Grimm. And he was alright, but then he got better when he became the Thing. So, but either or, even though his acting wasn't as stellar as Miles Teller was, I will say this. Their chemistry was great. But when it comes to the Storm family, there was a lot of Storms in the Storm family. You got Franklin Storm, one of the most hated characters in my book, because the guy not only was naive, there was red flags flying all over the place, but he thought he can change everybody. Like he's one of those, you know, like back in the day in the 90s, there was always a movie that came out about a high school teacher turning everybody around. That's pretty much what it was. Dr. Franklin Storm was one of those high school teachers that will turn everybody around. Even though he wasn't a high school teacher, he was a scientist. Yeah. And not to mention, from the age difference, was completely off too. They made these guys seem like they're grown, but they were actually supposed to be 18 years old. I suppose. If you literally would try to put the time together, that's how it would pretty much be. But despite all that, Franklin Storm got on my last nerve. I literally did not care when he perished. And that's sad. I had no feeling at all when he perished. I was like, it's about time, moving on. Because he was that annoying. He really was a very annoying character. And then let's move on to the Storm siblings. They actually did explain about Sue and Johnny. And I know it was probably a huge rift between fans seeing that Johnny was black. And I'm not even going to go into that. Well, actually, yeah, maybe I should. I had issues with that. I'm not going to lie. Because I'm like, okay, how are they going to do this? They're going to make somebody adopted? Bingo! But instead of it being Johnny being the adopted one, he actually is the son of Dr. Storm. They made Sue the adopted one from Kosovo. Kosovo? Why did it have to be Kosovo? But regardless of that, I really wish that if you're going to make something that different, you really do want to explain it a little bit more. You got to add a little bit more origin to that story if you're going to make something that dynamic. You can't just be like, okay, here it is, accept it. Because you got to explain it. That's something like that needs explanation. What happened to Johnny's mom? What happened to Sue's parents? Like, I would love to know that. I really would. But they kind of left that out and be like, look, here it is, deal with it. So, whatever. Moving on from there. Oh, gosh. And I guess I can lean on up to the villain. I probably had a fourth one in there, but I can't remember. But let's lead on up to the villain. Oh, okay. Toby Kebbell as Victor Von Doom. Yes, I'm actually reading this from my phone, so I'm just going to... I can't remember all their names. But Toby Kebbell played Victor Von Doom. He's a great actor. He really is. And when he was human, he really wasn't that big of a jerk. He really wasn't. You can kind of understand why he had no trust towards the government at all. And I understand, and after him talking, you kind of understand why. There was a lot to that character that would have made him great. Instead of him being a villain, he would have been more of an anti-hero and more relatable, just like Magneto. Magneto is not necessarily a villain in my book. He's more of an anti-hero, and I love those characters. But when he became Victor Von Doom, not only was I upset, well, I really wasn't upset. It was kind of confused. I was kind of confused in a way, because I'm trying to figure out how the heck were you able to even get robes and get like wrapped up in bandages on a desolate planet that has no life. How was that even possible? How were you able to find a cape and all this other stuff? They didn't explain that. But besides all that, when he got his powers, oh my gosh, it would have been an epic boss battle if they kept it in. They took that scene in the hallway straight out of Akira. For those who haven't seen Akira, go back and watch it, or just go back and watch that scene. You'll understand what I'm talking about. He literally walked past people and boom, dead. Walked past another guy, boom, dead. One thought, boom, 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 heads explode. He literally made a guy's head explode inside of his suit. I was like, okay, wow, he is going to be a really strong adversary. And I look forward to it. But then going back and thinking about it, if this is supposed to be a superhero movie, it wasn't. They literally scared the crap out of you when these guys actually did get their powers. It was devastating to see Johnny go through some pain. I don't know if he was in pain or not. Instead of it just being that they had powers and no pain at all, they could switch it on and off. They were literally in turmoil. Ben was hurting almost. He was like, I just learned how to ignore it. Okay, they never really explained what they were really going through. They just accepted it. And then you had, some reason, Johnny had like a huge flare episode and blew up everything. And then Sue was unconscious, going in and out of consciousness. I know there was something that she saw, but we never really saw that. But either or, it was just all messed up. It really was. And the ending, oh my gosh. This could have been a great boss battle. It really could have. Victor Von Doom was practically one of the strongest guys. And he actually had a point when he was a human, going on up to when he was fighting them. He had some major points. But then they kind of switched it around and trying to create a black hole to send everybody there when he was trying to keep everybody out in the first place. So that was, and like that goes right back to the editing being off. But either or, how in the world can you destroy someone that strong with just... I'm sorry. The way that they fought him, it should have ended right there. Von Doom should have literally been lifted in the air, and they should have been staring at him and end. But it didn't do that. I really wish it did. I really wish it did. But it didn't. They actually had to fight. The fight was very short. It wasn't really all that epic. And then it was just over. And he was evaporated. Just like that. And that's just the one thing that pissed me off. Not to mention I have no idea how he was able to even develop the energy to create a black hole, to suck the earth inside of the black hole when he's trying to keep everybody out in the first place. And also that leads me to the point where I really can't stand Dr. Storm, was how Dr. Storm was like, this is your home. You need to stay here. I'm like, okay, this guy's glowing green and he's like, wants to go home. And he talked about how people destroy the earth and how the government is. Let him leave. Seriously. But despite all that, they took the ending of this movie straight out of the Avengers. For those that remember the second Avengers movie, they took the ending straight out of the Avengers, and that's how they ended it. And I was so pissed. Because I'm like, this is a waste of movie. It literally is. And it shows that Fox does not care. If they put out that kind of garbage that has very bad editing, very poor script, very lack of chemistry in the cast. Even though these guys are great actors, the script was so bad they just couldn't. They had nothing. And then you waste a villain like Victor Von Doom or Doctor Doom, what have you, and literally have him perish within maybe 5 minutes of the movie. And it took us forever to even see him, and we're even trying to figure out what happened to him, but we never saw that either. Bad editing. Guys, I'm just going to end it with this. I've talked way too long about this movie. If you want to see a good movie with 4 individuals that can work cohesively and that actually do care about each other, watch The Incredibles. If you want to actually see a movie where the characters' insecurities become their somewhat powers, watch Misfits. That's a good TV series. But as for Fant4Stic, all I can say is if you really want to see it, wait until it comes out on Netflix or on demand, because it will give you the $2 it deserves.